are these who get the reward in this gospel? Jesus has just spent the last chapter, our gospels for the past few weeks, giving his 12 closest followers instructions for their mission. He sends them out to share the good news of healing and reconciliation that he brings. That is his own mission from God. He sends them out humble, vulnerable, and dependent into a dangerous world. Jesus' dusty ragtag band is to start a grassroots movement of hope for the hopeless, with a message of God's care and desire for everyone's wholeness. Jesus gives them the power to do this work, but they're to be servants and guests. And Jesus says their reception will vary greatly. Some will welcome their message and offer them hospitality so that they may hear more. And some will be suspicious and turn them over to the authorities. But Jesus instructs them not to be afraid. With all this under their belt, Jesus tells them whoever welcomes them, listens to them, and receives their message, receives also Jesus himself and the Creator who sent him. Whoever receives them as a prophet is someone who brings God's word to the people, not only gets the message, but they also receive the reward that the prophet gets. How extraordinary. Those who accept God's message get the same blessings as those who spread it. So, who are we in this gospel? Are we the ones who go and speak God's word to others? Are we the ones with a right relationship with God that share what that relationship is like? Are we the little ones, the Jesus followers, who shared their love of Jesus with others in small ways? Or are we the ones who welcome those who speak God's word to us? Are we the ones who are changed by our association with people whose lives shine out the love of God? Are we the ones who offer what small help we can for the support of other Jesus followers? I think a helpful way to look at this gospel is to say, yes, we're both. We both speak God's word and welcome others who do so. Hopefully, our lives show Jesus to everyone we meet, and we're inspired to see how God's love shines through others. So we're on both sides of the giving and receiving, and also it doesn't matter which we are, because in these verses, both givers and receivers share in the same splendid rewards of moving closer to God. By reward, we don't just mean going to heaven when we die, because there are enormous intrinsic rewards in doing the work of God's kingdom here and now. Jesus tells us that peace and joy are central elements of following him, and that deep, abiding peace that the world nor circumstances can take away, and the joy associated with it, exists side by side with struggle and suffering. Just think of that. While we are suffering, we can have peace and joy. This in itself is good news, but how do we go out as prophets, righteous people, and little disciples? Prophets speak God's word to the people. Righteous people are those who live in right relationship with God and others. Disciples are simply learners. These little ones are humble learners who follow Jesus. So, how do we be people who don't think we have all the answers, who are willing to listen and spend time learning more about Jesus' way of love. And how do we hear and then speak a word God is giving us? This is a polarized time in our nation and in the world. The ready availability of information about almost anything all the time, and the way that information is shaped by those we listen to, has contributed to a sense that we know what we're talking about. It tends to harden our opinions, when in fact studies show that people usually hear what they want to hear and primarily listen only to those they agree with. Most of us live inside our own filter bubbles. Much as we might want to think that we are open to all ideas, many of us have largely lost the art of really listening, especially listening to people who are radically different from us. But if we are to speak God's message, we need to first listen to God. If we're to receive God's message, we need to really listen openly to find it wherever it is spoken. God speaks to us very often through other people, through their written or spoken words, through their stories of their experience, through their deeds of courage and selfless giving. What if we were to receive, to welcome, to really listen to the messages swirling around us and then discern in prayer if they are from God? What if we listened hard enough to hear the stories of frustration, pain, and fear, not just celebration, of those marching in pride parades this month? What if we listened deeply to the journey of a trans person? And what if we listened hard to the stories of frustration, of fear of losing housing and opportunities for their children, and of how hard people are working to feed their families and survive? What if we could take all that in earnestly and openly and take it to study and prayer to sense where God is moving us to respond? If we could do that, we would be changed, and the world would be changed. There are many people of deep and abiding faith who do not sit in churches. We can see that examples of right relationships with God in those who are poor and in need, those whom we might not at first think have something to teach us. It's the strong faith and tenacious hope of the Salvadoran people I've met that's kept me returning to that country. Each time I go, I receive far more than I give. God's word has often been sent to me through Salvadorans of very humble means, whose faith and trust in God and whose graciously offered hospitality and welcome have put my own to shame. Letting go of our sharp distinction between those who have something to give us and those to whom we have something to offer will be a blessing to us, because they can be one and the same person. Sometimes those who have a daily experience of how short and fragile life is have a grasp on the gospel, the good news of Jesus that we often struggle to understand. You can see this in hospitals, feeding programs, and clothing giveaways, and it's always a blessing. These little ones of Christ, these humble and unexpected emissaries of Jesus, may desperately need our hospitality, but they may not even be aware that they bear God's word to us. And we may not realize that we bear God's word to others. To receive the reward, we need to shed our preconceived notions and be always on the lookout. We don't wait for huge revelations. We listen carefully for a sentence or two that shows us something about God's love. We don't wait only for breathtaking miracles. We look for the small mysteries that help us feel God's presence and power in our life. This week, let's look for whoever bears Christ to us. As we receive them gratefully and even offer a cup of cold water or hot coffee, and as we try to do the same for others, our own faith is strengthened and we're drawn closer to the heart of God. Now that's a blessing and a reward.